I'm Amy Cherry. This local news is a service of Flagler County's Toyota dealer, Beaver Toyota, here to wow ya. The man who represents Flagler County in Congress says there's only so much more the federal government can do if the economy doesn't get back on its feet. John Arking reports.
A third stimulus bill is now making its way to those in need from the COVID-19 shutdown. But for 6th District Republican Congressman Michael Waltz, there needs to be an end game in sight.
We passed the 3.5 package, reloaded the Paycheck Protection Program. Over 100,000 new loans went out in the first 24 hours with another $50 billion. I mean, just these price tags continue to kind of blow my mind. But people need the help, and we're doing everything we can to get at least the funding out there for the help that they need. And I've told you guys from the get-go, I'm not sugarcoating the struggles that the federal bureaucracy and the state bureaucracy has had in moving just that much money to the avalanche of people that are asking for support.
Walt says negotiations have started on a fourth stimulus package that will focus more on state and local funding, but they have to balance the needs of making sure municipalities aren't forced to start laying off first responders, but also not forcing taxpayers to, as he put it, bail out the mismanagement of others. He says fiscal conservatives like himself are finding it increasingly difficult to vote for massive spending packages, and that in his view, we can't print money to get our way out of this crisis. From the WNZF Newsroom, I'm John Arkin.
The biggest obstacle facing Flagler County students who are looking at virtual learning for the remainder of the school year is a lack of internet access. Superintendent Jim Tager.
Some students cannot receive good quality internet, and I know that we as a district have provided 400 hotspots. And so it's just a future thought going forward. I mean, it's a pandemic, and hopefully it's a once-in-a-lifetime event, but we have realized that depending on where students live, it's difficult for them to get connections.
Tager says equity in education is always an issue, but becoming more apparent during the COVID-19 crisis.
And I think that our cable providers who have been great partners could help us with that along the way for the future.
In an editorial he wrote, Tager called internet connections just as vital as water and power. You can now enjoy all of Flagler County's beaches 24/7. That includes Flagler Beach. Its 6 miles of scenic beaches are now open without restrictions other than the requirement to maintain social distancing. Flagler County Administrator Jerry Cameron.
We will allow the beach chairs and blankets, and you don't necessarily have to be exercising. You can just be getting back in touch with nature. If you're going to have your beach chairs, just make sure that they're 6 feet apart. We were able to get to this point because of a lot of compliance.
Cameron adds social distancing is paramount to flattening the curve. And remember, lifeguards may not be on duty, so all swimming is done at your own risk.
We are going to feed 5,000 Palm Coast families.
That's the goal of this Saturday's Feed Palm Coast food drive, Flagler County Chief Development Officer Jason DiLorenzo.
We've been collecting food from the community for nearly 2 weeks now, and also we've had generous donations from the community to allow us to purchase food to feed all those families. It's going to be an amazing event. We're going to be running 20 cars through our line at a time, stuffing those trunks and getting them out of here and back home, and hopefully with some nourishment that'll make them happy and make it a little bit easier for them.
It's happening from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Palm Coast City Hall and at Parkview Church on Belterre Parkway.
What is the H2 receptor that's in the news now?
Dr. Scott Cleos said that he thinks there are 2 things that will determine how well a patient responds to the coronavirus infection.
Your initial viral load and your baseline health that determines how receptive these little ACE2 molecules are on the cell surface to a corona invasion.
Cleo said that if your genes make you prone to illness and you are exposed to a viral load, you could be very sick. Dr. Scott Cleos and his wife, Dr. Andrea Cleos, host The Doctor Is In here on WNZF. It airs on Saturday and Sunday mornings at 8:30. To listen to more about fighting the novel coronavirus, download the Flagler Radio app. There, you'll find the Free for All Friday podcast and The Doctor Is In podcast. Tomorrow, more on the H2 receptor and the viral load. From the WNZF Newsroom, I'm Deb Albertson.
And now you're up to date on Flagler's Morning News. I'm Amy Cherry.